Hi guys, Brandon Suva with First Class Garage Door of Chicagoland. Thanks for checking out our video of breaking a torsion spring. If you're curious, the first slow-mo video was 1080p at 60 frames per second, slowed down by 4 times. The second video was 720p at 240 frames per second and also slowed down by 4 times. I apologize for the video quality. That was the first time we did the slow-mo on the iPhone 6, and it's obviously not good. So next time we'll use the iPhone 10, and hopefully that'll be better if we ever do another one or need it for any other reason. But at any rate, here behind me we got the rig. It's a Liftmaster Model GH501L5, so it's a 1/2 horsepower gearhead hoist operator. It's got a 45-to-1 speed reducer. Output shaft speed on it is 36 RPM. We got a 12-tooth drive sprocket and a 40-tooth driven sprocket. We got a 1-inch solid shaft on here, and the spring is a 218 2-inch ID by 23 long. So technically the maximum turns on this spring is just under 8 1/4. We did have 12 turns on it, almost exactly when it snapped. Two reasons I made this video. Number one, just to show the sheer power of the GH operators. If you're putting these, and we talked about it a little bit in our Liftmaster Elite Series GH video that we did, but these operators have a ton of torque, massive amount of power. When you think about all the reductions that are involved in this ton of power, even just from a 1/2 horsepower unit. So if you're ever installing these, this spring is basically for a 1-car garage sandwich steel insulated door, so like an 8x7. It's a little bit weak for that, but pretty close. This operator was basically just lifting like an 8x11.5 foot tall garage door. Because there is no garage door attached, and the operator was loading the spring, all the force was coming from the operator. And really, this is nothing for this operator. This wasn't the first spring that we did. The one before this broke on the first windup at probably 12 turns-ish. The spring before that, we ran it for 2 days, not all day, all night, because the cameras can't record that much footage, but for many hours this thing ran a similar spring to this. I think we cranked that thing up to, like, it was a little bit longer than this. It was 225 inch and 3/4 29. I think we had 20 turns on it, and we were winding that thing up and back for probably a solid, if you add it all up, 8 or 10 hours that this operator was running. It was probably 4 or 5 hours at a time, just up and back. I had the timer closed set at 1 second, and literally when it hit the close limit, it would go right back open. So basically for 8 hours, it lifted with 1 second breaks in between. It lifted an 8x11.5, and in the other case it was like an 8x19 foot tall door, up and down nonstop for 4 or 5 hours at a time, with 1 second breaks in between each direction of travel. So again, just to show you just the amount of power and torque this thing has, if you're putting this on a smaller sectional overhead door, make sure you put a friction clutch on it. If you can use anything else, use it, because again, if the friction clutch isn't adjusted properly, this thing is going to tear almost any smaller door to pieces. Secondly, the spring, even though it was overwound, these things have a ton of power. So yes, it was maybe a little exaggerated, but still at the appropriate number of turns, 7.5 turns. For like a 7-foot door. Certainly no more than 8 1/4 turns on it, as that's the maximum number of turns that you should put on these safely. Explosive power, you got a ton of sharp edges, a lot of mass moving rapidly, as you can tell in the video. I think this whole rig was bouncing around a little bit. You can see that in the super slow-mo. Not really super. I wish I had like a 2,000 frame per second camera, but I don't. What else? So yeah, if you're interested in doing springs yourself, I hope you stumble upon this video. They are very dangerous. If you're not thinking of messing with the springs, never oil them. Stay away from them. They're dangerous to install. Once they're installed, obviously you can see everything remains on the shaft. They are safe as long as you're not touching them or within a few inches of them when they break. If you do take it upon yourself to oil your door, if you need to get up on a ladder to do anything, don't oil the springs, don't touch them, stay away from them. If you're ever in the garage, if you have shelving around it or whatever, keep in mind these things sound like shotguns going off when they break. They likely won't hurt you as long as you're not close to them or touching them, but the noise will scare the daylights out of you, and I hate, you don't want to fall off like a 6-foot ladder because you'll probably hurt yourself when you hit the cement floor in your garage. I think that's it. If you guys have any questions or anything, we're happy to answer them. Leave them in the comments. If you like the video, please give us a thumbs up. Again, we got a lot of time into this. We did do multiple springs. None of them really broke when we wanted them to. The one that did, we didn't have the cameras on. Again, a lot of wasted footage, a lot of time involved, so we'd really appreciate a thumbs up. If you guys are interested in seeing more videos like this, please subscribe. We're going to be doing a little series on torsion springs. We do have a series on Liftmaster commercial door operators as well. So yeah, if you're interested in seeing them or seeing more, please subscribe, and as always, we appreciate you watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Thank you. Hey guys, one quick thing. I was just editing the video. I wanted to touch on a few things. Number one, if anybody's wondering, the popping noise that you hear when we're cranking the spring up, as the spring winds, it stretches, it expands, it stretches. So the shaft moved a little bit and our sprockets weren't lined up. We only have one shaft collar on the one end here, and the whole rig it's not really ideal. It was just something quick that we threw together. It's not the most rigid thing, but at any rate, so that was the popping. Number two, when I say these operators will tear up a smaller door, it's not under normal circumstances. If the springs are good, cables are on, everything's running normally, it's perfectly fine. It's not going to destroy your door, no way, shape, form. It's when you break a spring or you break both springs, or somebody hits the door and pops a cable off of it, or the door closes on something, pops a cable, whatever the case. This operator will then destroy your door. It's not going to stop, it's going to keep going. Obviously closing is fine if it hits something or whatever, or if something enters the opening, you have your safety devices. But in the upward motion, if the cable's off the drum and it gets tangled up on the key or the set screws or whatever, it's just going to continue to run. It will rip the cable up, it will toss the door around. Just again, if anything goes wrong with the door, malfunctions, whatever, this thing is going to destroy it. And it's going to destroy itself in doing so. So that's just wanted to touch on what I meant by that. I don't want to give the wrong impression that this operator is bad. It's going to hurt a small door. No, not under normal circumstances. What we're worried about is when something does go haywire, you're going to have severe problems unless somebody jumps on it, turns the power off immediately, then you're good. But the likelihood of that is slim. It's almost non-existent. So yeah. Again, thanks for watching.